Yeah, that's what this is. The Uniparty is Make Ukraine Great Again. The Uniparty is all about funding every single foreign war. They think this is the business model that needs to be done. There you go. Drop that up there. Yeah, thank you.
Congressman Green, you threw down hard today. You didn't back off. What did you put before the American people and before Congress that you're bound and determined to have a great unmasking, ma'am?
Steve, I went out and held a press conference today because I think the American people deserve to see recorded votes on record to see who the Uniparty is, because that's exactly what we have in the House of Representatives today. Hakeem, Jeffries, the entire Democrat leadership team has come out, fully endorsed Mike Johnson. They want him to remain Speaker. They fully support his speakership because he's done such an excellent job delivering Joe Biden's agenda, giving the Democrats every single thing they want, giving another $61 billion to Ukraine, funding foreign wars all over the country. And President Trump is right. Ignoring the southern border, the full-on invasion at the southern border. Mike Johnson funded that too, to keep it open, keep Joe Biden's invasion of America going, Steve. So I went out today and I let everyone know I'm calling the motion to vacate next week. This is not something that I want to be doing, but I think this is something that has to be done because we got a clean house, Steve. We got to get our house in order because when President Trump is back in the White House in January of 2025, we need a Republican majority in the House with leadership and members that are prepared to deliver his agenda finally. They failed last time he was president. We needed a Republican majority that can get it done this time.
Do you think he's fully aware of what Johnson, working with the Democrats, are putting in these bills to either handcuff him or even potentially make it very difficult for him to take office? Do you think that because in these bills, it's like the $3.5 billion we now found out went to the State Department. They never talked about, went to the State Department to accelerate mass immigration, mass migration from the Middle East to the United States. And you see what's on these college campuses right now, the Marxists and the Sharia supremacists trying to overthrow America, not Israel, trying to overthrow America. Your thoughts, ma'am?
Oh, I completely agree, Steve. No, I don't think he understands and is informed on these bills that are being passed. He hasn't been informed of what Speaker Johnson has done, the agenda he's passed. I mean, Speaker Johnson fully funded the Department of Justice, who's trying to put President Trump in jail the rest of his life, which is a death sentence. He fully funded the FBI that raided Mar-a-Lago, and he gave the FBI a brand new building. He has fully funded the Department of Justice that's locking up people that protested at the Capitol on January 6th. Every single day, these people are still being arrested, and they're being locked away in prison for years and years and years. This is the funding that Mike Johnson brought, and no, I don't think President Trump knows about it. Steve, let me tell you, those protests happening on college campuses, the woke Marxist college campuses, let me tell you, they are funded, and you're right, it is to overthrow America. They're going to build those and build those and build those, and while networks all over continue to show more coverage and more coverage, that's all they want you to see on TV. And listen, let me tell you how people need to see this. Those spoiled black college kids.
MTG, hang on. Can you hang on for 1 second? We'll hold Congressman Green, I'm going to have you continue what you were saying in a moment. I want to put a pin on that just for a second because Speaker Johnson has just made a statement that Jake Sherman over at Punch Bowl has put up on Twitter. Johnson's statement is the motion to vacate. This motion is wrong for the Republican conference, wrong for the institution, and wrong for the country. Now, I've just put up, and it's going to be up on Getter in a moment as soon as my crack staff helps me out here while I'm broadcasting. My response to that, Congressman, is, sir, you are a traitor to, 1, the Republican conference, 2, the Congress as an institution, and 3, the country. Your thoughts, ma'am?
Joe Biden's agenda after voters all over America gave us the majority in the midterms in 2022 is a complete betrayal. That's what's wrong for our conference. That's what's wrong for Congress. That's what's wrong for our country. And you want to know something, Steve? I said this at the press conference. I was one of the Americans that voted for President Trump in 2016 because he was the only presidential candidate standing on that stage of 17 candidates that was ready to take a sledgehammer to the Republican establishment that has failed us over and over and over again. And we have Mike Johnson going in there and basically giving a sloppy kiss to Hakeem Jeffries, and Jeffries taking him in with a great big hug and them holding and sharing the speaker's gavel together. That's what's wrong for America. And Americans are sick and tired and fed up with it. Steve, nobody wants this drama right now, but it's Mike Johnson that has completely brought it on all of us. He has delivered this because he has completely capitulated to the Democrats, and he has done everything they wanted. So much so that Hakeem Jeffries and the entire leadership team is fully supporting Mike Johnson's speakership. They're only doing that because Mike Johnson is delivering their agenda, and that will cost us the House. Yeah, this is inconvenient. Yeah, this is something I don't want to have to do with right now. Yeah, this is something that our conference shouldn't have to go through. But I'm going to tell you, Steve, I didn't come up here to Washington to go along and get along and put it in cruise control and just have an easy job, cushy job up here in Washington while America burns down to the ground and gets taken over by George Soros and all of his protests and Hamas and fully open borders, and we're being invaded and the economy falls apart and our dollar loses value and inflation continues to skyrocket and our kids have no hope for a future. I'm sorry. I'm not here to participate in the uniparty, but I can't wait to deliver a vote for American voters next week so they can have a fully transparent list of everybody here in Congress that believes in the uniparty and has a membership card in the uniparty. It's a coming out party, Steve, and I'm ready to deliver it.
How many times did he either privately with you or in conference in front of everybody say, and I'm not even counting going on national TV and telling the American people, I want to know in the conference or to you, did he sit up and absolutely commit, say that he would not fund anything in Ukraine until the southern border was secure, ma'am?
Oh, my gosh. He said it over and over and over again, Steve. He said it in our conference meetings. He would give it in his speeches on the floor. He'd say it to the press every time he talked to them. He'd say it in his interviews. I'm sure he said it to the donors that he's begging money for. He said it over and over and over again. And what did he do? His words do not matter. His actions matter. And his actions are this. He did nothing to secure the border, and that's the most important thing happening in America right now. It's not these fake-funded protests that are going to grow into complete chaos and violence all over America. That is dangerous, and that is something that's already illegal.
Did he or his staff ever come forward and tell? Because we're talking a lot of congressmen that are in shock, and the reason they're in shock is we had the woman on the other day who dug into it, Miss Mahoney, and now their constituents in their face. Did he ever come forward that $3.5 billion of his Ukraine bill that he was the one that demanded to be passed would go to set up new centers in the Middle East to exacerbate and accelerate mass migration from the Middle East to the United States of America, ma'am?
No, he didn't talk about that at all. Not a single bit, Steve. But that is the reality. This is what Joe Biden's going to do. He's going to use that $3 billion to create an entire refugee program of Hamas and bring them into America, giving them refugee status, making the American people pay for it, probably turning them into voters in the November election. This is extremely dangerous. This is what Mike Johnson has allowed to happen because he refused to fight. And he said, oh, we have a thin majority. What are we going to do? How are we going to stop it? This is just the reality of divided government. This is not the reality of divided government. This is the destruction of America that's going to drag us further and deeper into maybe another war in the Middle East, possibly being involved in NATO and a war against Russia, because this is the direction that we're going in. And this is absolutely the most dangerous time possibly in American history. And it can all be stopped. Steve, All of it can be stopped if our Republican conference does the hard work. Is it hard work? Yes, it's hard work. But who the hell signed up for this job for it to be cushy and easy? I know I didn't. And these are the times that we're living in, Steve.
Congressman Green, yesterday the conference chair, Elise Stefanik, put forward a massive letter she sent to the Justice Department requiring an immediate review of everything going to the Justice Department, particularly around Colangelo and what's happening in New York City. The chair of the Judiciary Committee, Jim Jordan, just came out and saying that they're starting an investigation on Colangelo and what's happening in New York City. He last week released a 300-page report that absolutely shows that President Trump is being crucified by Marxists up in New York City. Julie Kelly has a blistering report up on Twitter about how the classified documents case was a setup by the FBI and by DOJ. And Tom Fitton over Judicial Watch is putting out more massive documents under FOIA requests that shows that this is a vast criminal conspiracy. Our own Mike Davis has called for an immediate investigation. Did Speaker Johnson mention any of that when he fully funded the FBI and Department of Justice? Because these have been in works for months. This just didn't appear overnight. Did Speaker Johnson tell the conference exactly what was going on inside? They had work going on by his conference chair, by the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, a 300-page report that was already done, that was being suppressed by Johnson's staff. Did they inform anybody in the conference before the votes went down to support the FBI, fully fund the FBI, give them a new headquarters, and fully fund DOJ, ma'am?
No, we weren't informed of any of that. And let's be really brutally honest, Steve. Those investigations are extremely important. And that is exactly the type of work our committees should be doing while we hold the gavel, and our subpoenas should matter. But our subpoenas will not matter. Do you think the FBI cares to come in and show up before our committees when Mike Johnson is fully controlled by Hakeem Jeffries? Absolutely not. They're going to laugh at us. Do you think Merrick Garland or anybody over at the Department of Justice is going to cooperate and answer our letters and give us information?
Do you think Speaker Johnson and his staff actually made a deal with Hakeem Jeffries and the Democrats when they came out last week, because there's no coincidences, and said they were going to back him? Do you think the reason that report was suppressed, the reason Jim Jordan couldn't go forward and announce what he announced yesterday, the reason that Elise Stefanik could only release it yesterday, the reason that nothing's been done on the situation in Miami, nothing's been done about Jack Smith, do you believe that he's actually cut a behind-the-scenes deal to save himself with Hakeem Jeffries so as not to prosecute the DOJ and the FBI who are persecuting President Trump, ma'am?
I have to be very careful in that answer, Steve, because I don't have any proof, but it certainly seems that way. I don't have proof to say that he cut a deal, but it certainly appears that way. This man cares more about staying Speaker of the House than he cares about doing anything. He will not pass our Republican agenda. He's helping the Democrats. He will not bring accountability against Biden's Department of Justice, against Biden's FBI. He will not do anything to enforce subpoenas and enforce committee hearings on these extremely important issues, while President Trump sits in a New York courtroom day after day on a trial that's an absolute joke and should not be happening to him, only to move on to the next Democrat joke trial, fake trial, and have to sit in another courtroom day after day after day while this is complete election interference. Can we trust Mike Johnson? Absolutely not. His mask has been taken off. Whether he's compromised, whether he's completely inept, whether he's completely incapable, whether he's bought off or he's made a deal, the reality is he cannot do the job as Speaker of the House. He is no longer fighting for the Republican Party. He is completely controlled by the Democrats. And that became clear when Hakeem Jeffries and the entire Democrat leadership team came out and fully endorsed him. That is the most dangerous situation for us to be in, as this country goes on a collision course and is driving at a horrible, frightening speed towards World War III. And that is what's happening, Steve. And they want the chaos. Remember, Democrats are the party of chaos. They were the party of Antifa riots, the party of BLM riots that burned cities all over America. And what did that do to the 2020 election? It played completely in the Democrats' hands. So anybody that's looking at these college campuses protests and saying that, oh, this is good for Republicans because it's showing who Democrats are. Oh, no. This is a major play in their playbook, and they're going to use it, and they're going to drive it all the way to Joe Biden claiming that he's brought peace to the Middle East and appease both sides so that he can pull all those voters back in for him and try to win in November. I think this is the worst thing that can be happening. And I want to remind everybody of one thing. These spoiled, bratty college kids that are getting caught up in this garbage on these woke Marxist university campuses, they don't make a product, they don't make a job, and they don't do a damn thing for America and our economy. And that is the reality of what's happening, and you're watching it on TV 24/7 every single day.
Congresswoman MTG, it's already started. MSNBC is already saying that, hey, Mike Johnson showing that bipartisanship works, that the center is holding against the radical fringe of MAGA. Of course, your buddies over at Fox News with Murdoch News with Karl Rove and Newt Gingrich. You're an agent of chaos. You're an agent of anarchy. You're going to put in jeopardy the majority. What say you, ma'am?
Well, of course they're saying that because they all, you've got the left, MSNBC represents the Democrat Party. They're getting everything they want from Mike Johnson. Then you've got the Murdochs, and we know exactly what Fox News and the New York Post, and, they called me Moscow Marjorie, literally just over a week ago. They're going to attack me because they don't want anything to change. They love the uniparty. That these two networks, those two companies and all of them put together, they are the uniparty. They love to keep it going. They want to continue to fund Ukraine. They absolutely love the Ukraine war. They love the forever wars. They want to see war in the Middle East. They want to see our wide open border. They love all this stuff, and they want to continue it going because they will never do anything to put America first. That's the establishment. That's the uniparty establishment. So they're going to attack me with everything they have. My hope, Steve, is I hope the American people see through it, and I think they can. I believe in the American people. I believe they're far more intelligent. They're far smarter than these networks give them credit. These networks want to tell them what to think, want to tell them what to believe, and want to tell them who the enemy is. And, the truth is, I'm not the enemy. I came here to Washington, D.C. because I was fed up with the Republican establishment, fed up with the uniparty, and fed up with a federal government that has failed us over and over and over again to the point where we are going to collapse probably sometime in our lifetime. And I don't want to be a part of that system. I do not want to be one of the people that made that happen. I want to do everything I can while I'm here in Congress to stop it, Steve, and to fix these problems and force our government to actually work for Americans for once, for a change, and actually do something for our country. And that's all I care about. So the attacks are going to continue, and fine, let it happen. But I believe in the American people, and I believe they're smart enough to know the difference.
It'll be that collapse on our current trajectory will be a lot sooner than sometime in our lifetime. It's coming, and it's coming hard. Before we leave you, you have a vast audience here. These people are going to have a chat with their representative, both in the local office and in D.C., to either sit down with them or to go visit them or to call them up on the phone or send an email. What do you recommend they think about, and what do you recommend that chat, that discussion revolve around?
I think it's as simple as this. Voters hired us to do a job, and we have to do our job, even when our job is hard. And it's hard right now. And the reality is Republicans got to show up to work next week, and we need to do our job. And we need to actually support our voters that sent us here. And our voters that sent us here did not send us here to support Joe Biden's agenda and to support the Democrats and to support the continued destruction of America. So it's really simple. All we have to do is come to work next week, vote for this motion to vacate, and do the work. We have people in line that can step up and be speaker and do a hell of a lot better job fighting just even a little bit, Steve. I'll take a little bit of a fight at this point, because what I'm hearing from everybody right now is, what's the difference between Mike Johnson and Hakeem Jeffries? And there's not. There's zero daylight between the two, because they're joined together in one big uniparty leadership in Washington, D.C., and it has to end. So this isn't complicated. This is actually showing up to work and doing our job for a change, instead of putting it in cruise control and just going along with the Washington establishment.
Let me be brutally frank. When it was announced that Paul Singer has backed Johnson's holding on to the speakership and adding to the conference next year, which we clearly want to add additional seats, when he gave $100 million, I don't believe in coincidences.
No,
the 300-page report, the 300-page report that Jim Jordan, I give credit to his staff. It's quite frankly kind of brilliant. Why that report was not put out a day or two in Information Warfare 101, why that was not put out a day or two before the start of the trial in New York City, Speaker Johnson's going to have to answer. Because I have heard directly that it was suppressed by the Speaker's office, and that's why it was not put out. I have heard also that all this other stuff that Stefanik was working on and Jordan, and now it's starting to come together. We should have done this 6 months ago when they first got on top of Trump.
That's
but
right.
This is going on offense, and Speaker Johnson needs to answer one basic question. We know you lied to everybody. You bald-faced lied to everybody to their face on securing the southern border. Bald-faced lie. In addition, what is going on with all of this standing up for President Trump about a vast criminal conspiracy going on in FBI and DOJ that clearly people in the House are working on it? Why has it not come out sooner? And why, knowing what was in these reports, because these reports have been worked on for months and are very detailed and very footnoted, how could you possibly fund the DOJ and the FBI before you had them down and had an accounting about this? It is outrageous. Those two elements alone, forget everything else. Those two elements alone demand he be removed. Demand he be removed. If you're prepared to go along with this, if you're prepared to have your congressman go along with this, if the Republicans in the House are prepared to go along with this, then that means you hate MAGA, you hate the Republican conference, you hate the country, right? And you're part of the conspiracy to actually take down Donald J. Trump. Them's the facts.